Hi, I'm Pamela Poole, and I live an amazing life as an artist and an author. And the things that I learn every day are what make it so amazing. There's just so much to learn and so much to do. I don't know how anybody ever gets bored. So, what I want to share with you today is a new project that I have done. I learned something, and I also finished something that I hope will be not only inspirational in my life, but that is something I can leave for family members or friends or whoever is interested in it later on. But I felt inspired to do this. I did a biblical prayers study, which it was just prayers that are in the Bible, which are so many. I went through the ones that I thought I wanted to pray personally to the Lord in my own life, because I don't know if you're like me, but some days the things that I see in the news, the things that are going on around me, or the people that are suffering around me that I know that I'm praying for, some days I wake up and I just say, you know what, Lord, I don't even know how to pray. I don't know what to say. Would you lead me to know what would please you in my prayer life? And some of these prayers have become part of this book that I am making. And I wanted to go to biblical prayers that I knew were models for us of how people in the Bible prayed to the Lord, and they were pleasing to the Lord. And so instead of me just rambling through, my checklist or things I think the Lord should do to fix everything, I'm like, I want to look at this with a biblical perspective and not through human eyes. So I created two journals. They're still works in progress, but I wanted to go ahead and share with you. And I'm going to do a blog about the process, because you're going to see in a minute why I need to blog it and put down the steps in there for you and then for myself. But I did two different prayer books. This one is what I call my list. This was easy. It was a purchased journal, basically a blank journal with lines in it. I like lines. Um, I went through and glued 2 pages at a time together so that they would hold me gluing or decoupaging and writing on them. And then I turned them into prayer pages. So they're basically decorated prayer pages. This one has a little bit of sparkle. I don't know if it'll show up in the video or not. And in these first few pages, I wrote the prayers that are constant with me, prayers for the church, prayers for my church, leaders and people that are teaching. They need our prayers, y'all, our support. Decisions that are being made in governments around the world and things like that. So I have a prayer for the Lord's will in government that he sets up around the world. I also have a prayer for Christian parents. They go through so much that a lot of us don't even think about. And then a prayer for my calling, what I feel the Lord has led me to do in life, and the outreach that he has placed me into, or the missions that he has placed me into. So that's what these first few pages are. And you can do something like this easily. You just glue 2 pages together so that they will hold up more if you want to. Actually, this last page, I didn't even do that, and I think it's going to be fine. This one over here is a napkin that I decoupaged on there. This is a napkin that I decoupaged. So sometimes you may need to glue 2 pages together. Just use a glue stick. It'll be fine, as long as it's archival. These, you can use a glue stick, or you can use a product that I'm going to show you in a few minutes. After those prayers, this is when I'm going to start the changing list, the needs of my friends and family, the kinds of things you have come up in your life. People will say, will you pray for this? And this is the list where you can do that. So this was easy because it was already put together. The other one was such a journey because I have made a book before. If you've watched my channel for a while, you know that after one October, Inktober, when I did a bunch of sketches in ink, I compiled them together in a book. Because what do you do with all those sketches, right? I wanted to be able to come back and look at them. Um, and I put little notes in there about what inspired me and about the process and that sort of thing. So this was easy though, because I did something called signatures. And for those of you who have made little books, you know that that's when you take a bigger sheet of paper, you fold it into maybe several sheets, and you fold them, use a bone folder. I guess it's not really a folder, but one of those things that flattens things out. And then you can either tape them or stitch them into a book. And so I did that in this, and you can see I used washi tape down the middle, and that was holding them together. This was, I glued down some paper that a friend gave me. I think it was like a scrapbooking paper or something. So this was relatively easy. Mm-hmm. And I thought this next one was going to be much easier than it turned out. I bought, first I started watching tutorials about mixed media. If you have seen my website, you know that I'm more of a contemporary impressionist, modern type realism. It's not really detailed. I like a little bit of impressionism with it, but it's pretty representational. When you look at it, you kind of know what you got there, right? Mixed media, you layer and you layer and you do so many things to it. And it's a little abstract. And I've never been the type of person who thinks in an abstract way. So I don't get it a lot of times. And I thought, well, mixed media might help me have more insight and perspective on abstract art when I go to art shows and exhibitions and that sort of thing. Well, I did know from the first few tutorials that the mixed media artists prefer watercolor paper, not mixed media paper. And so I had a mixed media pad that I do a few things in, marker work and ink and things like that. But I love watercolor paper. So that was right up my alley. I'm like, oh yeah. So I got, I had a buy one, get one half off on one of my favorite professional artist grade papers. And it was in a tablet. It was just the right size I wanted to use. And it was glued, down the binding. Those of you who paint know what I'm talking about. And I naively thought, okay, I am going to, that glue binding there, I know that these may come apart a little bit the way we tear them out when we're through with a painting, but I can put some glue, like book binding glue in there, something archival, and this is going to hold together. That didn't work out. That wasn't reality for me. So I never ended up trying the glue because I realized pretty quickly that wasn't going to hold up. So I kept learning how to do these pages while I searched for a way to bind the pages whenever I would finish. And I learned so many materials. Artists have so many ways of doing things. I ended up purchasing more materials than I needed because that's the way one artist worked, or this is the way another one worked. And everybody's got their own technique. That's part of the neat thing about being creative. But now I have boiled down what works for me in a journal setting to do a book setting with mixed media. And I'm going to do a blog on that so that I remember and so that I can share it. I'll put the link in this video. I will give you a preview. I did learn some things like, I knew how to do stenciling, but I didn't know about just using parts of stencils. Like maybe instead of this whole pineapple, you can, in the edge of a book, you can just maybe stencil this side of it or this part of it. So I did get out some stencils that I usually use a tropical or a beach theme because I love the beach and that just speaks to me, and that's what I wanted in my book. I learned how to do something I never even dreamed of before. I learned how to paint tissue wrap, like gift wrap, and then splatter on it. I learned to stencil on it. I learned all kinds of things about making papers to collage with. I didn't realize that was a thing. I thought people just sort of bought their collage papers, but the really serious ones, they make their own things and they sell it as well. If you really get serious about this, you might want to try that. I already knew how to handle napkins. They're very thin. They can be transparent whenever you put them on a page. And I did know how to do the decoupage part because I do that on seashells. However, I usually use the dishwasher safe Mod Podge. That is a no-no in an art journal because your pages will stick together. If you do Mod Podge, you know that, especially with the glossier finish, in humidity, your pages will stick together or your item will stick together. If you've ever made something like coasters and then you set a warm glass on it and then you picked up the glass, but the coaster stuck to it because of your Mod Podge. I learned a different medium and I'll explain what that is to you as well. So there is a process to this. It is not just, it can be that you just glue something in a book, but then you're going to be limited about what else you can do on top of it. So it is a process. I learned that I have Pitt pens, art pens that I do use for other things. They work to write in some of these books. And also, I discovered jelly roll pens. And one's like a metallic. I think I got this on a clearance sale. And then these have a shimmer to them. And they're very pretty to write on in this book, especially if you're going to put any metallics and shimmer of paint in your journal. These are a lot of fun to work with. But I'll tell you, there's a process to that as well. And I used to learn to use deli paper. This is just something that you get in a restaurant when someone wraps your sandwich up or something. Mixed media artists use this to close up your pages, like before they're totally dry. You can close a page, tuck it in, put the heavy book on top of your book to squish it down and have flat pages overnight, and your pages will not stick together because deli paper is coated, kind of like a wax paper. I also learned to use beautiful mulberry rice papers. I was scared of those at first, but they're actually tough, and they take a lot. I learned to paint on them. I learned to stamp on them. I learned how to tear them. And most importantly of all, I learned how to use ink pens on them. I had to coat them in a gesso, this clear gesso. This is the best kind for the ink. And then I learned how to glue them down with this gel medium, not Mod Podge. All right, so that will be in the blog to tell you how to use those things. Now I want to explore this prayer and praise journal with you. I didn't know how to put it together, and I didn't want to sew, and I didn't want to tape. So I found a notebook with the tear out perforations. You can tear these, not tear out, the pull out perforations. And with those pull out perforations, you take the paper out, you make whatever you want to do to it, and then you just insert it back into the spiral binding. This was a Grumbacher product that I just happened to see because, well, I don't think it just happened to, I think it was meant to be. But when I was really searching for how I was going to put this together because I knew the glue wasn't going to work, I didn't make signatures, so I couldn't sew this book together. And this was what I came up with. So I would do this differently in the future, but remember, I'm just learning on this one. This was my journey through things. A lot of people use the word journey. Some don't like it, but this felt like a journey, a hard trail, actually. And so I took my watercolor pages, I glued them, and I had to glue a front cover to it. I glued them in, and then I started writing. And sometimes I wrote on rice paper and glued that. Well, I used gel medium to put that in. And then other times I just wrote in it. And I know that scares people, but honestly, you can make some corrections if you've got a page that is using a color on it. This, you can see I just wrote at the top, but this one, and I used some lines. I sort of marked off some lines on there because I like my writing to be straight if possible. This one, I wrote it on rice paper with the jelly roll pins, and then I tore the edges. I fastened this in with that golden gel medium. And so I have two versions of how you can write in here on the same page. If I want to, I think one of these I just wrote directly on the watercolor paper. The other one I used rice paper, and I put the rice paper in. Under your rice paper, it's kind of transparent, and so you can put a piece of dark lined notebook paper, and it will keep your writing straight. I haven't finished this book. As you can see, my next page is not done yet. I do have the prayers ready to put in it, but I haven't finished it yet. But I wanted to show you in process so that you wouldn't just see this finished product and think, oh, okay, but I could never do that. Well, this is what it looks like before you start writing. And then you write in it. And not only do you write in it, you stamp or paint or otherwise embellish these pictures further. They're not, this page isn't just finished because it doesn't have writing. I also haven't done some embellishment to it. So you turn this into yours by all the inspiration that you add to it. I would tell you that if I was going to do this again, this particular book, I was able to tear out the mixed media pages. The perforation was still intact. I just glued my watercolor papers to those perforations, stuck them back in, and so I have a stack of mixed media paper that I can use. I didn't waste anything if I could help it. Another thing I can tell you that's really pretty in these, and I don't see if it's picking it up, you can use a hologram type acrylic paint. You get some really beautiful effects. Just go with what pleases you, what inspires you, and it makes it so much more of a motivation to open up your prayer journal and just go to the praises and praise that you want to pray as if you are saying it to the Lord. Don't just, you can just copy the prayer from the Bible if you want to, but I found it more personal if I could do it like I really do it, which is I read it and then I pray it to Jesus as if it's my heart. My voice, my mind, seeking Him and interacting with Him. Prayer journals, remember, this is a battleground. This one, and maybe even especially this one, because this has your list in it. This has the people that you love and that who are asking you for prayers and that you are doing some spiritual battle for. So, that is what I wanted to share with you today about how I worked with this, what I would do differently, because it wouldn't be this thick and bulky. and I would have handled the binding differently had I known. But that was part of the process. I tried so many different things. And thank you, all of you artists who are out doing YouTube tutorials and just sharing your process for doing things. It's different from one artist to another, from one video to another, one tutorial. They are going to give you a little bit different approach because their results are a little bit different and the way they work is different to their personality. So you have to just, I don't even know how to count how many I watched, how many I interacted with on a blog, but I did learn what I wanted from my project. And so I highly recommend, if you want to try this, first start watching videos of tutorials with mixed media process, and then do a study on biblical prayers if you want to do a biblical prayer book. If you just want to make the book for your list prettier, then just look at those mixed media ones, come up with the things that you want to cut out and glue into your book, and find some pretty pens, and then find some time to sit down and work on your prayer life. All right, that's all I have for you today. And until next time, I hope that you find something to do today that makes you smile and to serve a greater good in the world. Bye-bye.